Buying a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever take in your whole life, and selling one as well. It can feel like you are walking a tightrope. But what if I told you there was a way that can make it stress-free, successful, and enjoyable as well? Today, I'm sitting down with one of the most experienced real estate agents in the game to uncover many different strategies, secrets, stories, and everything in between that could completely change how you approach real estate. Hi, my name is Zuko Vilakazi, and I would like to welcome you to our very first episode where we will be unpacking everything you have to know about property, about real estate. Whether you are buying, selling, or you've always been interested in the market trends, you don't want to miss this one out. Let's jump straight into it. How are you doing?
Hi, Zuko. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sometimes, like the question, "How are you doing?" It's just people just say it, but they don't really care whether you're doing really well or not. It's a norm now.
Oh,
But how
absolutely.
are you really doing?
Well, you're actually putting me on the spot in this limelight, but I'm actually loving being here and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. All right, okay. So, because of course we will be talking more about like real estate. So, I know that one of the most experienced people that I know in real estate, it's you are one of those people. So, I think it's going to be a very good idea for you to share with us your story on how you got to real estate.
All right. Okay. So basically, I probably came into the real estate industry about 16 years ago. Prior to this, I was actually a psychologist and I was in private practice and I was enjoying that. And I decided I was in a comfort zone. And I think it's important in life is to challenge oneself and to get out of that comfort zone and to learn new skills.
Yes, true.
So I looked around and I thought, well, I think I'll be quite good at selling houses. So I then transitioned into real estate, and it has been such a lovely journey for me. It really has.
Mm.
I've enjoyed the contact with the people, and I think as a psychologist, you are trying to help people, and that's what we're doing as well, is helping
Yes,
people.
true.
So I think my skills from psychology, my listening skills, comes into good use because in this business you have to listen to your clients so that you
Yeah,
can accurately match them with the right property.
yeah.
Interpersonal skills, problem solving skills, those all come into it. So I transitioned into real estate and I've never looked back. I hope to be here for a very long time, and it's been a lovely journey. And I think it's also important as one goes through life is just to actually try and learn new things. We don't want to stagnate. And I think what's helped me in this industry is a lot of things, particularly technical things that I never did, I never knew about. And
Yes.
I think I'm evolving as a person as well. And I find it quite challenging to try those new skills.
Yeah. So tell me, when you decided to go into now real estate from like I think like when you were
Mm-hmm.
a psychologist, you were working there full time.
That's correct.
So like when you were now in a when you were transitioning from
Right.
being a psychologist to real
Mm.
estate, did you leave everything and just go straight to real estate, or did you start by being part time in real estate
Okay.
and then?
Very good question. So what I did was I was cautious. I didn't want to take a huge risk. I had
Mm,
spent 15 years in private practice. I had a very good private practice, and I didn't want to close the door and walk away. So
yes.
what I did was I negotiated to actually let me work both my private practice and be an estate agent.
Oh,
I'm not going to say estate agency is being part-time because I do not believe you can be a part-time estate agent. It's a full-time job.
oh
You
yeah.
literally have to um, commit to it and be very thorough and be available all the time for your clients.
Mm.
So to begin with, I started off working mornings with my practice, and the afternoons I'd book appointments and then marry up clients with possible houses that they'd like to buy. What I
Yes.
found, I think it lasted for about 3 months, and I realized that it wasn't the most ideal situation because I was not necessarily giving either job the full attention that it needed.
Oh, yes,
And I had then had the insight after a few sales in those 3 months, realized that I can do this. I can be an estate agent. I can make a living out of it.
Yes.
And I made that very important decision to close my practice and commit to real estate full time. So it was not an easy thing to do. I'm not good with change. Change for me, I like to know. I'm very structured. I like the same thing to be happening all the time. I really enjoy that. So for me, the change was quite scary, but I haven't looked back. And I think sometimes we've got to be in that situation where you are a little bit afraid. You don't have the skills.
Yeah.
But I learned them, and I really have enjoyed this industry. It's been fantastic for me.
Amazing, really amazing. So in terms of how did like when you now decided to leave like your practice and now fully focus on real estate, how long did it take for you to get like your first sale?
So I'm quite a competitive person, and I want results. I'm results orientated. So I'll have to admit, my first sale, I actually sold a property to my husband. He's also in property in terms of buying and renovating houses.
Oh, yes,
so my first sale was to my husband, and that was probably the one I enjoyed the least because you don't want to sell to family because as you go home and then there are problems about the sale. So that was my first sale. I learned a lot. The biggest lesson I learned was I'm not going to ever sell to my family again.
Oh, really?
So I let somebody else do that. It blurs the boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
So if he had an issue with the house, I'd be hearing about it all night, as opposed to come to work, do my job, deal with my clients. But I must be honest, in terms of the experience that I've had in terms of those first sales, I found it to be incredibly exciting. It's a wonderful opportunity to actually meet a buyer who would like a home, and you find the right home for them. The excitement is unbelievable. It's really fantastic. And for me to be part of their journey. And I always take time to listen to their story, where they've come from, why they're buying a house, who'll be living in the house, and the challenges and the sacrifices they often have to make to actually purchase a house. So that excitement is amazing. I feel it. I still feel it every time I close a deal. I must be honest. I feel incredibly excited for the clients. The flip side of that is that not all sellers are very excited about selling their homes, and you've got to be mindful of that. While there's a lot of excitement around the key handover to the new purchaser, often sellers will be in a situation where they didn't want to sell. They might be retrenched, they might have lost their job, so they're almost forced to sell. And we've got to be careful about that to actually understand that the seller's also going through a lot of emotions as well.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes sellers have to scale down if they're elderly and they've got to move into another phase, into more assisted living. And those are also difficult for them because they're giving up a home that they've lived in probably for 40, 50 years, and the memories that they've got in that home. So I'm always mindful of the seller's decision as to why they're selling and how they're going to actually cope with the next phase of their lives. But I also think it's important to look at the whole process and to the journey. The seller's going on a new journey, and hopefully we can actually help that transition as well. But those are the important facts that we just need to think about the seller situation. Sometimes it's a happy thing for a seller if they're actually wanting to upgrade. They want a bigger home. They've had a family. And often clients would actually will start off with a little flat, and then they might then have a baby, move into a house. There's a cycle in life, and then by the time you get to the end of your life, you want to go back to the flat because you're elderly and you don't want the big home with a swimming pool. So it is actually a whole process. But I still get the same excitement when I actually close a deal, and have kept in contact with a lot of my clients where they feedback, they let me know how they're doing, and they send me pictures of the baby, of the puppy, or the garden, which is lovely. So
nice.
I walk the journey with them, which is lovely.
That's really amazing. That's really amazing. So what I want to know, I think I'm very interested in this one, because I mean, like, even though it's it's an amazing journey to like it's really amazing to be in real estate and stuff like that. But we can't run away from the fact that you don't have any salary. You are only like on commission, and the days or months are not the same. And I'm sure for 16 years there are days where it was very difficult for you. There are days where you maybe I wouldn't know, but what has like motivated you and kept you going over like the 16 years of
Yes.
being in property and stuff?
Okay. So, you know, I think it's important in this industry, you're quite right. It's like a roller coaster.
Yes,
You've
yes, yes.
either got feast or you've got famine. And it's important to be a very disciplined person. So when you transition from, I've always been self-employed, but people who come into this industry that have not been self-employed, they're used to getting a salary. Now, as a psychologist, I didn't get a salary.
Oh, you
I
will
was
like your
basically, I was actually in my own private
yes, yes,
practice.
yes.
But I think the hardest challenge for agents coming into this industry is that they don't have that salary. So they've got to be very disciplined. When they get commission on a big sale, they've got to actually pace themselves and put money away so they've got money for 3 months' time. So it's important to actually be very disciplined. I also think part of it is it's important to actually have a goal and you actually set your goals and celebrate when you achieve them.
Yes, yes, yes.
But in terms of, for me, the motivation and the passion coming into this industry, I absolutely love selling houses. I love listing houses, taking clients to view houses, and closing deals. But as I've gone on into this industry, I've actually realized I've got another talent in this industry, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
where I've transitioned into the training.
Oh
And
yes,
that
yes, yes.
often is what gets me up in the morning. So I've I've trained, mentored many agents within the industry, and it's
Yes.
been fantastic to see their growth and to see them succeed. So that's been a big motivation. So besides the selling of the properties, I also like to actually see that I'm actually helping people within the industry to grow with their own work and in terms of buying properties. So selling properties. So the training for me has been fantastic. And what has also helped is help to keep me relevant and also help to
So
keep
just
me
do this quickly.
sure. Okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It also helps to keep me current. So I've got to keep up to date with what the new trends are. So when I'm actually training or mentoring an agent, I can actually give them the best advice I possibly can. So the training for me has been absolutely fantastic. And I found that to be very fulfilling. So motivation, passion, selling houses, listing houses, and the training has been wonderful.
But why do you think you now doing trainings as well? Why do you think that motivates you more than you doing what you wanted to do? Like, I don't know if it makes sense. Like, you left your practice because you wanted to like be a real estate agent, and for 16 years. And one of the things, I think there's a reason why you can pick that specifically, that it is you now training other people that motivates you. Why do you think that's the case?
I think it's an underlying issue in the sense that I like to help people.
Oh
So
yes,
when I'm
yes, yes.
selling property, I'm helping people to actually find their dream home.
Mm,
When I'm
mm,
training, I'm helping agents realize their potential. So I think deep down inside, I've always been in the helping profession. So
oh yes,
by
yes.
training, I'm actually helping agents, and
Mm,
I love seeing the growth. So I think that has been another aspect, and it's given me another avenue to explore, which I've really enjoyed. So I think it's that underlying innate need to help people.
okay, interesting. Is there any, out of all the agencies, the agents that you've trained, is there any that stands out, like the best that you had?
Oh, absolutely. There are quite a few, and I will not mention their names.
That's
I
fine.
have some new agents that I'm training now that I have high hopes for, but
Mm,
it's been
mm, mm.
very interesting because the agents coming into this industry, they come with very different personalities. Their
Yeah, I can
needs are very
imagine.
different in terms,
Mm,
and their structure is very different.
mm.
I'm old school, so I do the paper and I do backups and everything. So I like to have my Excel spreadsheets and stuff. Agents will come in and they have a completely different way of actually managing their portfolio of
Mm.
properties that they actually are selling
Yeah.
or how they manage their buyers. So I've enjoyed that as well. So the diversity of the personalities And I try very hard not to impose my structure on them. I explain to them how I work, and then I see what they do with it. And sometimes they'll modify it, they'll improve, and they'll actually have a system that actually suits them, as opposed to just trying to mimic what I'm actually doing. So that's quite nice just to see the different personalities. And as you say, I've had some fantastic success rates. I think I must have trained at least probably 14 people, 14 agents over my years.
Oh.
And as I say, I've watched and followed them, and many of them, most of them are still in the industry, which means that's a win-win. They were happy and they're motivated and they've stayed within the industry.
Yeah. All right. That's really hard moving. That's hard moving, really. So over the period of like 16 years you've been in a real estate agent, how have you seen the real estate market like evolve over the years?
Okay. You know, it's been very interesting to watch it. When I first started, we had print media, so all the adverts on the Saturday morning would be in the newspaper, so people could see what show days there were.
Oh.
Things have changed a lot, but I think probably the biggest change is the fact that we've got a lot of agents coming into the industry, which actually means that we have to be incredibly competitive to make it. It's a business where if you don't work really hard and have a good work ethic, you're not going to make it. You're not going to actually reach your targets and reach your financial goals. So I think for me, it's been very important to actually look at there is competition, a large number of agents entering the market. Some of them leave if they find that they have other needs or they need to go in a different direction. So with the number of agents in this industry, it's important to actually try and define yourself to be different. And I think that's essential. So you need to try and do something that's going to be a little bit different to the next person, whether it's a matter of trying to be very thorough, whether you have a slightly different approach, or you actually do little things that will actually make you stand out. And that's what you've got to do, because otherwise you're just like the rest. So you've got to do things with your clients, your buyers and your sellers, that will make them remember you. And if they remember you, that when they sell or they buy or their family members, you're the person they're going to call. But if you don't stand out, you're a blur, and they won't, I can't remember that agent's name. I'd be sad if the people I've worked with haven't remembered my name, because I'd hope to believe I've made an impact on their lives. Not only to find them a property, but in terms of what I've done to facilitate the whole process. So I think that's important. So the industry has changed. We've got a lot of people coming in, but we've got to be different, and we've got to actually look at the value we're offering our clients. It's not just about signing a sale agreement. It's not just a transaction. There's so much more that goes into it. Even things like remembering their children's names, remembering that they had a dog or that they're going overseas. They love it when you actually recall those details, which is where it's important to keep good records, because we can't remember everything. So it's just personalizing everything. And I think they're not just numbers, they're people, and they're wanting to buy houses through me or sell houses through me. And it's my job to actually make sure that I leave a mark on them, a positive mark in terms of the experience, and have a good experience, because we can all be, we can go anywhere and you can actually have a bad experience, whether you're buying a car, whether you're at a restaurant, and you'll remember that bad experience. But I want them to have a good experience and remember that good experience. And learn and grow, because we're not going to always get it right. I won't always, not everyone will be very happy, but I think service is important, and we need to actually give really good service so that we are exceptional. We don't want to just be mediocre. We want to stand out, so that people actually know that we're here to actually help them on their journey.
Makes sense. All right. Okay. So, like looking at like the new year 2025, what are the trends that maybe buyers and sellers should pay more attention to as we like go on with the year?
Yeah, I think what's going to be happening, it's hard, there's no crystal ball, but I think what is going to happen, we've had quite an interesting journey. So when I started in real estate, I think it was 2008, 2009, there was a crash in the market. Basically, the interest rate went up to 15%, which means that to get a bond, you had to earn a substantial amount to qualify for a bond. So 15% was when I came into the industry.
15%.
15%.
So, sorry, can I just stop you for a bit? Like, oh, I never found like maybe time or to find out what affects the interest rates. What when the interest rates are going up, why, and when they're going down, or like what is affecting them?
So that question you're going to ask to some financial advisor. That's how I sidestep that one. You know what happened, and I'm not an expert in this, but I think around about 2008, 2009, there was a world recession, and the American property industry actually crashed.
Oh yes.
I'm not sure how much that impacted, but what we did have in that time at 15%, it meant that a lot of sellers could not afford to actually service their bonds because the interest rate was so high.
Yeah.
So what happened was we were flooded with a lot of properties to sell. So we had more properties to sell than buyers. So if you had a buyer, you had to hold on to them so no one else stole them.
Yeah.
The buyers had lots of choice as to what properties to buy because there were so many properties in the market. So our buyers were limited in the sense that because of the interest rate, not all of them could afford to actually service a bond. So we had a lot of bonds that were not actually granted. So that was a very, very interesting phase that I came into the market. So lots of listings, lots of houses on the market, and very few buyers that would have qualified to buy those properties. We had a lot of distress sales during that time. So it was a very interesting market. So I came into that market then, and it was the only market I knew. So everyone said, this is such a bad market. Well, I didn't have a bad year. I had a really good year for my first year. I thought, this is it. This is what I've been given. And I coped with it. So when the market turned, I mean, we've gone all the way down to 6.5%.
When was that?
That was 2 years ago.
Oh,
just after COVID, round about there. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline, but it was quite recently. We went down to 6.5%, and that was fantastic. It was lovely. So, in terms of the trends and what's happening, it's interesting as you go through. You're going to find that there are going to be lots of challenges in terms of interest rates and changes to the market, and how many properties we've got on the market. So I think if we compare between now and 2008, we probably have 3 or 4 times more listings than we have now. So where we're going, I don't believe we're going to have a boom. I don't believe we're headed that way, and this is just my opinion. But I do think things are going to stabilize. And I think we're getting into a situation, we've just come out of COVID, we've had all sorts of challenges from a socioeconomic perspective. So I think we actually are coming into a situation where things will calm down, they settle down, and we can only look up from here. So I think that's basically what's going to actually happen going forward.
Okay. So does that mean, like, while we are still in the interest rate topic, so does it mean, for buyers' perspective, it's better to buy when the interest rates are up compared to when they are down? Or
it's really hard to answer that, because when the interest rates are higher, you'd have to then have sufficient income to qualify for the bond, so it might exclude you from entering into the property industry because you can't afford to buy the bond.
Yes.
In theory, a higher interest rate should mean lower prices, but it doesn't always work like that. I have all these graphs and things, and I look at them. They don't always work like that. People often say, when's the best time to buy property? And my answer is always, anytime. It's the best time to buy.
Oh yeah. So in your experience, what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about buying or selling a property?
Okay. And there are a lot of misconceptions out there. So often with buyers, they're nervous, they want to buy a property, but when I'm engaging with them at our first interview, they'll say, oh, but I believe I have to have a deposit. And that's not entirely true. We actually can apply so that they don't have a needed deposit. It depends very much on their credit score, and it depends on their income and things like that. So the misconception is that they definitely need to have a deposit. Not true. They often also are confused by the fact that in the past, we could not include legal costs in the bond, whereas now we are able to do that. We can sometimes get up to 104%. For the bond grant. So there are avenues for clients who can afford to buy a house but don't have spare cash to actually pay for the legal costs. So those things are available. So people often think, well, I'm saving up for my legal costs. We can work around that, and we try our best. But I think, the deposit's a big one. And I think I work with a lot of first-time homeowners, and they come and see me, and they're quite nervous. It's a big step. It's quite a scary process. And one of their biggest fears is got to be, what if I don't get the bond? What if I don't qualify? So I will sit down with my clients to say, well, you like the house, let's put an offer in, let's apply for the bond, and if the bond's approved, there we go. If it's not, we work out why it's not approved. And that to me is a learning process. And then I would help them to actually see what they can do to make their next application more successful. So I think that emotional side where people feel embarrassed. My bond's not approved, whatever. So I don't believe it's anything to be embarrassed about, and I reassure them. I will say to them, I have many people who earn really good salaries, and they are working for themselves or in fantastic jobs. They don't always actually qualify for a bond. But I said, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It actually gives us information about how to solve the problems. And I say, if you don't try, you won't know. So I try and encourage people to actually take a chance. If they want the house, and we look at their financial situation so that once they've bought the house and they've actually started paying their bond, they can still have a quality of life. Because it's pointless having a beautiful home and you can't afford to feed, have lifestyle, have holidays. You need to have that in terms of balance. So I think the biggest misconception with the buyers is the fact that they possibly think they need a bond. They probably do. They probably think that they also need to have extra money for the legal costs, and they're also embarrassed to actually go and try and see if they can get the bond in case they don't qualify. For sellers, I think the misconceptions for sellers, which makes our jobs quite hard, is a seller will have a price in mind, and they often say, let's price high and we see where we go. Pricing high can sometimes have a negative impact on the marketing of the property, as well as a negative impact on a potential sale, because pricing too high, the property is then going to end up being stale and you might not get any sales on your property.
Because if they don't price it.
When it's priced quite high, and buyers out there are they watch and they know what's going on. So they can look on the various portals and say, oh, this one's been on the market for 409 days. The first thing they'll ask themselves, what's wrong with the property? And then what they should be asking is, maybe the seller's expectation was too high and they haven't necessarily looked at other elements in terms of pricing. So I think the misconception for sellers is, let's price high and let's see where we go. The challenge for us as agents, when you price high, is that when people are scrolling through Prop24 or private property and clicking to say, I want to find out more about that property, we're not getting the clicks because it's too high. If I can't get a person through the door to show them the house, to say, you're welcome to try and put an offer in, I can't do my job if I don't get a person clicking. So that's the misconception with sellers, is often, let's price really high.
All right, okay. No, that makes sense. So, sure. I didn't think about it that way, that like when you list the property, and if it's too high, because I think it's natural for someone to be, to have questions when the house that they are about to buy has been on the market for like 3 years. There might be something wrong with the house.
Absolutely.
But maybe the problem, or maybe the mistake was that like the house was priced like a bit too high.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, makes sense. So what do you think are the common mistakes that sellers do when they list their homes?
Besides pricing them too
Yeah, yeah,
high,
yeah. Besides
besides
president
that
two,
one,
that's the first
okay, yeah,
one.
absolutely. I think sometimes it's important for sellers to also look at their homes and see what simple things can they do to actually make it more visually appealing. So
Mm,
if we go to a home and the grass hasn't been cut or the pool is actually not looking sparkling, and there are door handles that are broken, simple things. So I think it's important for sellers to actually look quite carefully at their homes to say, what little things can I do to showcase my home to make it appealing? So from that perspective, it actually is, it helps us a lot when as a seller actually goes a little bit of extra trouble to actually showcase it, and give it its best opportunity for a buyer to fall in love with the house. We also find the houses that are probably the most difficult to sell are the ones where access or appointments are challenging. So it's not always easy when you have a tenant in your home that you want to actually sell, because
yeah.
we've got to respect the tenant's independence and privacy, and they've got all sorts of things going on. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to be cognizant of the fact that they have to live their lives, and the fact that the house is on the market, it's not from their doing, it's the
From the
seller's
sellers.
perspective. So where we get a tenant who can actually work with us, and we'll try and reassure them that the lease is in place, but we just need access to try and see if we can find a investor to buy the property, or everything will be taken care of nicely if we do conclude a sale. So access is very important for us to actually get into a home to actually basically try and showcase it and sell it and show people. I think as well with sellers, if they also take notice of small things like coffee's on the brew and muffins in the oven, those smells. You want those homely smells that actually makes people feel, gosh, this is a lovely home that I actually feel I
Yeah.
can visualize myself in the home.
Living in the home. Oh yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
All right, take care.
absolutely.
And then what? Because I mean, like I've seen a lot of people like deciding to, sell their homes
Mm,
privately.
mm.
What is the biggest disadvantage on selling your home on your own without like including any real estate agent?
Okay. It's I can understand why some sellers would want to opt for
Mm,
that choice in terms of private sales. Um, I would like to believe that we've got the expertise that the sellers don't have in
mm,
terms of all the small things when you're selling a home that would actually then protect sellers
yes, yes.
against any possible problems with a sale where there might be a fault that they hadn't disclosed or defects and things like that. So I know why they want to do it. They prefer not to pay a commission. However, they don't have the background or the expertise that we have. So sometimes we might have a situation where a seller will go along and they're trying to actually um, sell the house on their own. They might get multiple offers and inadvertently sign multiple offers and actually expose themselves for double commission claims. It's probably the biggest threat we've got about selling your
Mm,
house privately. Whereas if you've got an agent who's looking after you to sell your home, we will make sure that would never happen. So we actually are quite vigilant about presenting offers and getting sellers to actually know that this is the offer. There are certain words that you have to put in special conditions if there's a backup offer. So we actually structure all of that within our process of selling their home. So private sales, I think often if they've crashed and burned, they phone us up. And I think I wouldn't do surgery on myself. So why would
yeah,
you sell your
true, true.
house yourself?
Yeah, yeah. All right, take it. Yeah. So in that, I mean, like you mentioned something about them paying double commission,
Yes.
but they don't have any agent. Who are they paying the double commission to?
Yeah, so for example, so double commission. So essentially, if you've got two sales on the table, okay,
Yes, yes.
you've signed both sales, they're both active.
Mm.
The and they both get their bonds. The one party will actually then sue the seller because he's entitled to the house. He got his bond, but so did the previous. So
Oh,
so it's
yes,
not
yes.
commission per se. It's actually in terms of a penalty
Oh, yeah.
for having 2 active sales.
All right. Okay. No,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mm.
And then I think we have different kind of mandates. So the sellers, in the seller's point of view, when it comes to mandates, I would think that it's best for me to have an open mandate, so that I have 10 agents that are helping in selling my home, instead of having one selling my home. But most of the time, like, agents will want to have a sole mandate where they only are the only ones who are selling. So is it true that, like, if you have more agents, then your house is more likely to sell quicker? Or
No, that's a misconception. So with the open mandates, what the seller is doing is he's actually engaging with a lot of different agents. So numerous agents could bring them offers, and that's where the commission, the double commission, would come in if they're actually signing 2 offers with 2 different agents. So in terms of mandates, with the open mandate, sometimes we only can get an open mandate and they are very firm about the fact that they don't want to give a sole mandate. But it does mean that the seller has then not got one person as their go-to person, one agent as their go-to agent. They've got numerous agents. So there's nobody actually coordinating the viewings. No one's actually coordinating presenting of offers. So it can become quite stressful for the seller. Whereas a sole mandate, you've got, you know who you're going to be dealing with. You know that Zuko's going to be bringing you an offer, even if it's from his colleague. That's the person you're speaking to. That's the person that you actually gave the mandate, and you engage with him about all the terms and conditions. He understands you because he understands that you have a timeline to sell your property, or the fact that you have to buy another property. And that agent will then put a lot of effort and a lot of marketing into selling your property. So you're probably more likely to sell it quicker on a sole mandate with a committed agent that's going to pay attention to detail as to what the seller's needs are, as well as all the small details about making sure that all the defects have been disclosed, and that the agent is then also going to help the buyers to get their bonds and actually go down that road of actually concluding the sale.
Okay. And then I think that's enough for the sellers. Thinking about the buyers, especially, I think we touched on it a bit when we began. The first time home buyers, I think it's a very, like, it's not like, because I mean, like, you're probably gonna do it once. When you buy a house, you're probably gonna do it once or maybe twice. So it's not a very small thing. What one advice would you give? Like, one of the best advice you could give to
Yeah,
first time
so I
buyers?
think with regards to the first time homeowners, it's important that I love working with first time homeowners, partly because part of my background is also teaching. So I like to know that I'm actually going to be educating them about the process. So what I do is, with my first time homeowners, is I explain things. I demystify the whole process of buying a home. It can be incredibly overwhelming, and it can also be quite scary. You're excited, but you're scared at the same time. It's a huge commitment. It might be the only home that they actually ever buy in their lives. So you have to be clear that it's the right home for you, and be quite careful to make the right decision. So for my first time homeowners, I say to them, ask questions. If you're not sure, ask. I'm on WhatsApp all the time, and I say to my clients, not just the first time homeowners, if you've got a question and you're sitting on the couch, it's 9 o'clock at night, just pop me a WhatsApp, ask me, and I can answer that. If I don't know the answer, I'll find it out. I'll find out what the answer is to your question. But the more questions they ask, the more informed they are. And the more informed they are, they can make the better decision. So, for example, clients will come in and they'll be buying a sectional title. It might be a flat or a townhouse.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
And they say to me, I don't understand, what is a levy? And then I explain to them how body corporates and managing agents work, and what the levy covers, and also what the rules are. Because in sectional title, you can't just bash out the wall and put a new window, or you can't make changes in the property without being informed about the rules. So I say to my first time homeowners, ask questions. Just keep on asking until you actually know all the answers. I also like, with first time homeowners, to actually not overwhelm them.
Yeah.
We'll get to the end of the transfer process, but I'm going to actually explain everything as we're going along. So I'll actually, at each stage, at each junction, I say, this is what we're doing now, this is what's expected of you, and this is how we're going. So I like to actually break the process down.
Yeah.
So, for example, when they get a message from the lawyers to say it's been lodged, they don't understand what lodged is. And I'll explain that it's gone into the deeds office. We probably anticipate transfer within 10 days or however, depends on the backlog with the deeds office. So I try and explain those as they come along, because otherwise the whole process can be incredibly overwhelming for clients. With my first time owners as well, it's a commitment of 20 years if you're getting a bond as well.
Yeah.
And often they'll go through the bond process. We work with some wonderful bond originators. The minute the bond's been approved, been granted, and we've chatted about the interest rate, the repayments, the term, whether they want to do it at 20 years or 30 years. We chat about all of those things. We chat about the insurances and about life, if they have to have a life policy and all the special conditions relating to their bond.
Yes.
Sometimes, and we take for granted that it's a given that once your bond's granted, that you won't start paying the next day. You only pay the bond when the property is registered. But the amount of people who actually don't know that, they say the bond's registered now, so end of this month, is that my first deduction?
Oh,
So
yes,
I
yes,
like
yes.
to clarify those things, and these are simple mistakes. So as I've gone along, I've actually heard these questions, and I sometimes preempt them when I'm working with a new client. I say, you might think you'll be paying your bond at the end when your bond's granted, but you don't. You only start paying your bond when the property's registered and the bond's registered in your name. So in terms of first-time homeowners, it's actually lovely just to actually walk them through the process. And I always say, lean on me, and don't think it's a silly question. Ask me. But they also got to go into the property and be aware of the limitations and also their expectations. We've got to manage those, because we're not going to revamp, the seller's not going to revamp the home for them.
Yeah.
What they see is what they're going to get. And we talk through those things and we tell them what will be done or what won't be done. So they
Yeah.
actually don't be disappointed when they walk into their new home to say, oh, they haven't painted, or gosh, the roof hasn't been changed.
Yeah, I think this is a silly question, but you said, yeah, you shouldn't think it's a silly question. Just ask. I'll ask. So you spoke about when you were encouraging first time home buyers, you spoke about like the difference between like the sectional title and like stuff like that. When you have a townhouse or a flat, you can't just do anything. And you spoke about like the levies as well. So what is the difference between the levies and the rates?
Okay, so the rates is a fee imposed by our municipality, and for the rates, we get roads that don't have potholes. We get services in terms of removal of rubbish. We get various services. So that's relating to the town, to the city, and that is levied by, that is, not use the word levied, that is charged by the municipality. So the municipality needs the rates to actually manage the city. I think that's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
A levy is a fee that's imposed by the body corporate for the particular estate.
Oh, yes.
That is then managed by a managing agent. So the managing agent will issue each owner a levy statement every month, and those every owner has an opportunity at their AGMs to discuss what the levies are, what it covers. So those levies are important in most cases, but one has to be quite clear that it's not every case. The levy would cover things like the insurance for the building. It would cover things like geyser insurance, the electric fencing, the common areas, the garden services, external maintenance, and things like that. Or if there's a swimming pool in the complex, it'll cover that.
That as well.
So it's quite important that you actually understand the difference between rates and levies. Then clients will say, well, if I bought a house, a full title house, I won't have a levy. You say that is correct. However, on your home, your full title property, you'd have to get your own insurance for the building. You'd have to cut your own grass. You'd have to make sure your gate works, and those are your costs. So they probably do balance out quite nicely. But that's how the levy is actually structured and charged.
Oh, I see, I see. So, in simple words, the levies, or maybe let's start with the rates are there, are charged by the municipality to take care of the city.
That's
But
correct.
now the levies are charged by the body corporate to take care of the complex.
Excellent. There we
Right.
go.
Right. Okay. So, how do you recommend buyers like manage or plan their finances before they decide that now I'm searching for a home? What costs should they think about, and what kind of financial situation should they be at for them to decide, I'm looking for a home now?
Okay. So, in terms of actually planning the financial aspect of actually purchasing a home, just simply from the one perspective, making sure you've got enough funds to actually help with the transition from mom's home to your own home, or whether
Mm,
it's from your rental property to your own home that you're buying. So you've got
mm,
to factor in costs such as relocation costs, your transport to get your furniture to wherever you're
mm,
going. Your municipal account will incur a deposit that has to be paid so that you can have your account active, and so that when you move into your new home, you've got your lights and you've got your water all in your name, and those accounts are in your name. So those transitional costs are quite important. It's also good to save up for if you want to use your own finance to actually pay the legal costs.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you can then save up for that so that you can then actually not add that onto the bond. Because obviously,
Mm,
if those legal costs are added onto the bond, it does change certain things within your repayment. So it's important to actually have extra money as well, because you might want to repaint. You might want to put an electric gate in if it's actually only got a manual gate. So you've got to
mm,
just think
mm,
about, what do you want to do to the home to actually modify the home. But before you get to that stage and you're about to actually go into the whole process of buying a house, you also need to look at your own credit behavior. Do
mm,
you have lots of contractual debt? And
mm,
if you're thinking, I need to buy a house in 6 or 8 months' time, look at what contractual debt you've got so that you can try and reduce that, so it
mm,
can help you with your application. You also have to look at your own credit behavior. Are you paying your accounts on time? So if you're defaulting every month on your telephone account, or on your car repayment, it's
mm,
going to affect you negatively in terms of your score, and
mm,
that will affect your ability to actually
mm,
get a bond at a good interest rate. The ideal is to have a good track record in terms of servicing your contractual debt, as well as paying on time. That will actually help to boost your score. Okay,
mm.
so that's really important. It's also important not to actually take out new debt. Don't go and buy the Ferrari. Wait until you've actually got the house, and then you can
Then you
go
can
buy
buy.
a Ferrari, because we don't want to change any of the parameters
Mm,
in terms of your affordability. We'll often find that clients coming in, buyers will come in, and they've actually get a lot of they're perhaps salaried, and they also have a couple of flats where they're actually getting rent coming in. Um, and sometimes the rent doesn't come into their bank account, it actually goes into their pockets, and they use that to pay for groceries. We need to actually have proof of income. So proof of
mm,
income means, if you're getting cash for a rental property, for example, must go through your bank so that the bond originator and the banks can see that that's additional income that's coming in regularly. If you're
mm.
going to put it in your couch, we can't give you a bond.
Oh. Yeah, then now they've decided, okay, my finances are looking good. I'm
Mhm,
ready to look for a house.
mhm.
Now, in the viewings of the properties, what are the biggest like red flags that when you see this, then you must know you shouldn't buy that
Yeah.
house?
I think the red flags would be, when you're going into seeing a house, often it's quite exciting and you're having a look at this beautiful home,
Yeah.
but you've got to look at it critically to see, and you might only see the problems after you've moved in. So you need to go in
Mm,
there with a really clear mind and have a look at things. The big red flags for me are things like roof leaks, cracks on the walls, swimming pool that's got a crack where the swimming pool's emptying,
mm,
as opposed to a nice, lovely blue pool that you can swim in all the time.
mm,
So you've got to look at you're looking at the beauty and the visual aspect of the home, but also look for the faults, because if those faults are insurmountable, then you know you're going to end up with a problem in terms of actually fixing the house up. So you look at it quite objectively, but the emotion takes over and you have a look at the home and you're like, so excited. But note the defects. So your agent will take you through what the defects are that have been disclosed, but you also have got the right to fully inspect the home. Ask permission to open up the cupboards to see under the sink where there's any rotting, if there's lots of water collecting on the shelves under the sink. Those are the big red flags. But you look at the big things, the gate, the pool, the roof, and rising damp where we get actually damp on the walls. Hard to repair, but try and see if it's something that you can find the source and you could overlook that and repair it. So you've got to actually weigh up what are the problems in the home. I really like this home, and can I solve those problems? You might have to not overlook, but know that you've got a plan to solve any problems in terms of the defects that you might have. But go and rosy-eyed, it looks lovely. Look at it critically.
Yeah.
And also look around at the neighborhood, because and often clients will say to us, is it a safe neighborhood? What's it like? Is it noisy at night? Well, I don't live there and I'm not there at night. So I often refer that to the sellers, speak to the neighbors to say, what's the neighborhood like? You know, is it noisy? Are there people loitering around? So it's important to ask those questions and look at the house in its context of the suburb where it is. And then you're being objective and you're looking at all the possible problems. Unless you're buying a brand new house, the houses are secondhand. They're going to have faults. They're going to have things that the door handle's broken and it's been broken like that for 10 years, but it never affected anybody.
Yeah.
But if you're buying a brand new property, you can expect everything to be fully functional and move in and not have any repairs to be done. But you've got to be realistic and you've got to be understand that particularly the homes might not all tick all your boxes. You might actually find, gosh, this is most of the things I want, but not everything. Sure, I can put the pool in. Yeah, I wanted a double garage. It's a single one. What will it cost me to actually modify it for my needs? But you want them to be objective and to be open-minded in terms of what the home's offering.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Then I think lastly, I want to ask you like just one question that is based on like PMP now. I know you've been PMP for quite some time.
Yes, I've been here since I've actually been here all my life.
All right. Okay. So what do you think are the two things that maybe if you were to give someone two reasons why they should move into PMP, but also what are the two reasons they shouldn't move into PMP?
Oh, Zuko, this is a curveball, eh? Reasons to move into PMB. So I am biased because I've lived here all my life.
Yeah.
For myself, I enjoy the fact that it's got all the facilities, it's got everything I could possibly look for, but it hasn't got the huge city traffic and congestion and stuff. So to me, it's like it's got everything I'm looking for, but it doesn't have the negatives of being in a big city like Johannesburg and so forth. So I think Pietermaritzburg does offer fantastic schools. We've got some wonderful shopping centres, and there's lots of lifestyle things in Pietermaritzburg. You know, it's basically right on the doorstep of the forests. We've got dams and rivers quite close by. So it depends on what your lifestyle is. You're probably going to find everything you could possibly want for Pietermaritzburg.
All right. Okay.
Why should I tell them not to move into Pietermaritzburg? I think the only reason why I think people wouldn't move into Pietermaritzburg would be, I'm not going to go down where you think I'm going to go. I'm going to go a different direction.
Okay. No problem.
I'm trying to be politically correct and to be impartial. But I think we're going to find people leaving Pietermaritzburg or not wanting to come here because particularly of job opportunities. So we've got to look at that in terms of, is there a job that they can actually enter into the job market in Pietermaritzburg? So I think the thing that will actually prevent people from coming into Pietermaritzburg might be for opportunities, for job opportunities. Sometimes people will move into Pietermaritzburg because they quite like the diversity of schools that we've got here. We've got private as well as government schools, catering for a lot of different children's needs. You can see I'm a post teacher, so I always think about education. So I think it's job opportunities, and I think that's why people do leave, is where they do have to actually look at their employment and options there.
Yeah. All right, okay. All right, okay. Thank you so much for tuning into our conversation today, and thank you so much to our amazing guest here for those, like, I think, insightful words that you've shared with us, and very educational as well. I think it's going to be very good that we do this again to educate people who want to be in real estate world, but also to people who would like to buy houses, also to sell houses as well. So yeah, if you found this video valuable, please make sure you like it, give us a review so that we can keep improving it, so that we give you even better content going forward. But also share it with someone you think may find it important as well, so that they can also join us in these conversations. Peace.
Thank you very much.